Many years ago, at a village far from technology, there was a mysterious house, a half-timbered building, located in the heart of the countryside. The villagers whispered, their voices quiet, as if afraid to disturb the secrets they kept. The story tells of Jane's grandmother, a woman with knotted hands and eyes, who seems to be able to see beyond the veil of reality. Jane herself was a strange child, with a body as slender as a papyrus tree. It has fishbone bones and eyes the same color as old paper. His arms had 3 sacred ropes. This purpose was known only to him and Grandma. Near Jane's house there was another house that was forgotten and uninhabited. The balcony juts out like a beckoning finger and a large mango tree protects the entrance. But what was strange was that not a single mango leaf had flown into the house. It was as if the trees were afraid of an invasion. One day, Lemon and Jane decided to explore this abandoned house. With a green spoon and a coconut shell, they scraped dirt from the foundation. The house was empty and there were treasures hidden beneath the surface, their eyes closed. Eyes wide with surprise. As time passed, Lemon became more suspicious. Jane missed class and there was no news. Is she sick? Is she bewitched by a mysterious clay? We can't visit him. Lemon could only wonder. And the evening was too dark to visit. Finally, after 3 or 4 days, Jane is back at school. His appearance was otherworldly, his skin was slightly orange. There were white lines carved on his arm. And the dry thing tied to his wrist, what was it? Grandma gave it to me, Jane said confidentially. It can protect against ghosts. Jane told her friend that. While sleeping, she dreamed that she was walking down a certain path. It is the path to the realm of shadows. The 2 of us played together. Our footprints were muffled by the ground. But this time there was a pack of black dogs chasing us. Their eyes burned with hunger, we ran away. And Jane stumbled. Her leg was stuck in the black dog's jaws. Jane woke up gasping for air. The taste of dirt was still on her tongue. But even in the waking world, something was stirring beneath the house. There was a sound of gasping and wheezing, like a creature stuck in the bowels. The footrest is clearly worn. From generation to generation his pulse seemed to be pounding. Jane thought it was a stray dog that needed shelter. The next night the dream returned. The same chase, the same desperate run, but this time, a towering black dog with crimson eyes led the pack. Its gaze pierced through her soul. Jane's stomach twisted. And she felt the wind blow inside. Jane's grandmother was clever at concocting traditional herbal medicines. But the pain is still there. It gnawed at you like a forgotten oath, and then the 3rd night arrived. The night of the invisible call. Jane heard a soft voice calling out to her, like butterfly wings beckoning. But when she turned around, darkness took over her body. The stairs creaked. The buttons vibrated, and there was still an invisible hand stroking her stomach. Fear crept into my throat. And she screamed into the void. In desperation, Jane told her grandmother. Grandmother looked into Jane's eyes. This story, she said, is an ancient tale. A story of a black dog and a restless soul. Long ago, there were many superstitions in the village. Grandma's house is standing. A canopy of leaves conceals secrets, and wooden beams hold memories buried in whispers. Locals speak of the guardian, a black dog with eyes like polished garnets. It wanders around at night, licking wounds and guarding the threshold. Jane's dream was not an ordinary dream. Grandma had seen a world where the veil between the kingdoms was frayed. Black dogs, they were more than ghosts. They yearned for something that was lost. Grandma hung the Buddha amulet on the stairs for protection. She brewed herbal tea, and the fragrance spread throughout the house like forgotten incense. Jane's stomach relaxed. Do you believe it or not? Jane asked with wide eyes. Lemon nodded. The next night, Grandma told me the story of the ghoul. Listen carefully, Grandma said, her voice haunting. There are two types of ghouls, those who walk among us. Those who disguise themselves as ordinary people, and those who are spirits, then take up residence in the bodies of others. Rainy nights are their time. When the heavens cried out, they came out of hiding. Hungry for sustenance, Grandma's knotted fingers drew invisible patterns in the air as she spoke. Imagine them like a damaged bag. Their soul clings to the borrowed body. You will step out of the house, in the dead of night. Grandma said, her back was arched like a fishing rod. And her head, oh. Her head, resembling a beak, yes, a ghoul, but not something that would haunt the living. The villagers knew her as the daughter of a farmer. And during the day, she blends smoothly into their mundane existence. In the middle of one fateful night, an uncle went to the chicken coop. The light of his torch revealed her squatting form. "Hey!" he called out, mistaking her for a fellow farmer. But when she turned, her legs twisted like a snake. And her mouth was full of chicken legs. The uncle fled, and the village spoke of this in fear. They weren't hunting her down like in the movies, no, they were just kicking her out. She cried out, pitiful exile. This abandoned house has been silent for decades. Until her daughter returned. Grandma's granddaughter Jane. Seeing throughout the day, the daughter of the woman who had been expelled from the village, reappeared, the entire village held its breath, she walked among them. His eyes were fixed on the villagers standing and watching. And she stood looking at the villagers for a very long time. After that, she walked away. But all the villagers looking behind her saw the same thing. It was like there was a shadow sitting on her shoulder. Then he put his hand on his head, and walked like they were going everywhere together. Trust me, Grandma whispered to Jane. She's back. The story twists and turns like the course of a river. The ghost that used to haunt the chicken coop. Now living in the body of his daughter. One evening, while the sun was setting, the villagers gathered together. The old man leaned on his cane, and the grandma ogre's daughter, who was sitting in the cart, sat with her eyes closed. Surrounded by villagers, the air was dark and foggy. The villagers listened to her cries. Their hearts were heavy with curiosity. Where is home? They asked. Who are you? She points to a distant light. And Jane watched, hiding in the bushes. A form of ghoul appeared, a shadowy figure that clung to the edge of existence. Her eyes met Jane's. And for a moment, eternity stopped. The cart stopped a few meters away from Jane. The ghoul's gaze pierced through her soul. Then she shouted loudly and quickly jumped down. Her neck folded down. And her head hit the ground. Then she turned to face Jane. It was like he knew Jane was hiding there. Her head tilted, then she glanced at Jane and she smiled. After that, she was picked up by a villager, and she fainted. Uncle Kunnuing whispers, it's gone. But we know better. The house is still shrouded in secrecy. She did not reveal the location of the house. Mother senses Jane's late-night escapades. Where have you been? She asked. Her eyes as sharp as obsidian, Jane hesitated, unable to confess her secret wanderings. But the terrifying image of that aunt, the one screaming in the cart, who was grinning haunted. She is buried in Jane's mind, appearing as a spectrum. In the morning, Grandma came back. She carries the weight of a forgotten age. Her eyes are a pair of mirrors that reflect both the past and the present. Last night, Grandma confessed, I shrunk into the shadows. Grandma's eyes held ancient wisdom. They focus on survival, she said, and sometimes they get lost. That aunt, who had broken the laws of nature, was slowly disappearing, her steps faltering. Her heart is broken. She sat crying and couldn't remember anyone. Grandma talks about curses inherited from dead ancestors. Wonderful, she murmurs. Like whispers from the tiger hunting days. After that, the village was full of rumors that people had seen a black dog. Cowering like a two-story house, eyes blazing, it stood looking towards the distant path, drooling and ready to hurry towards the distant village. The legend lives on and is ingrained in our nights. So Jane wonders who Auntie will stay with next. Whose body will the ghoul spirit borrow? The house stood quietly waiting. And what about the black dog? This remains a mystery. It is a shadow at the edge of our pond. After that, there were rumblings of distant villages. About the appearance of a tall black dog with red eyes, which often appears at the edge of a pond, running in front of cars. Standing staring with its terrifying red eyes, it emerged from the forest at night. And when the moon rises and sets, we open our eyes and are ready to see strange things. Because on a quiet night, when the world holds its breath, a mysterious black dog still roams our village.